What's up, friends? My name is Alex Fleece. This is the yet to be properly named content podcast with myself, content producer Alex Fleece, creative director here in Maui for Brandon Turner, Better Life with Brandon Turner podcast, and my good friend Sean McGuire in Las
Sean
Vegas.
McGuire.
What up, Sean?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Happy Friday.
Is it Friday?
It is.
We're entrepreneurs, bro. I don't have
Yeah, I
weekdays.
know. Can't stop, won't stop. But I
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
Friday just because my girlfriend told me, "Oh, today's Friday." Otherwise,
That's
I
great.
wouldn't have known. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. This is the podcast. I'm trying to get like a promise, but what we are trying to do is get entrepreneurs and content creators to work together in new ways to create new content, content that sticks, content that converts, and content that tells story.
And I think I'd add on working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurial, that are looking for creators who want to create and have something that's meaningful behind it, and a sustaining career where it's not just something where they're working for a few months and then they move on, find a new client to work with, something where they're working continuously with that entrepreneur, building something together and impacting a lot of lives.
Love that. Yeah, content partnerships, not just content freelance.
Absolutely.
So speaking of which, you and I talked about this a lot this week because we worked on a project together. I got you to do some editing for me, and I'd like to get right into sort of this thing that I've been thinking about for a while now. With content creators, there's basically, in my opinion, there's maybe not two types, but there's two main types, right? And there's content that entertains, and there's content that educates. And I think the goal is to find a little bit of both. But we had this project where I was like, look, this is not educational piece of content. My podcast, A Better Life with Brandon Turner, it is an educational, platform. But we put together the sizzle reel, and we talked about how to make, some content is designed to be entertaining, and some content is designed to be educational, and we needed something that was entertaining. And so we got to this idea, this framework that I think about all the time about dessert first. Do you remember we talked about this? Dessert first.
Dessert first. No, I love it.
Yeah, I
When
think a
you
lot
said
of
that, it really clicked for me. It clicked.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea being like,
yeah, no, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, so, we're editing the sizzle for the podcast. And I think I was just leaving in a little bit too much of the meal with the dessert. And Alex tells me it's dessert first. We only have so much time. We need to hook them right away. We don't need to hear the whole story. And when I heard that, because I think the timestamps that I picked were good, but it was the little fragments within them that was gold. The rest of it was good. So just picking the little part that's the cliffhanger, or the part that gives them the dessert right away and says what you'd want to hear, so you're like, oh, I'm going to click on this, I got to listen to it, really, I think, made a difference in the edit and the tempo. Because it's almost like you're just picking those like one-liners, not the whole 15 to 30-second sentence that they said. And so once you said that to me, it was like a Pandora's box opened up, and I was just like, oh, okay, I get it now. Dessert first.
Yeah. With entrepreneurs, myself, you probably, like, the tendency is, I use this framework a lot where the whole goal is to delay gratification. And so this idea that whenever I sit down to a meal, I eat vegetables, then I eat my steak, then I eat my dessert. I eat the worst foods to the best foods. Well, that's the entrepreneurial life. But when it comes to content, especially entertaining content, is I kind of have to give you the dessert first so you'll stick around. I have to give you the first 3 seconds I have to punch. And in fact, on a sizzle reel like this, where, it is a trailer for a podcast where there's a lot of steak. There's a lot of steak in that podcast, but we're not going to listen to steak in 30 seconds. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds of dessert. I'm going to give you, like you did. I think you did 4 different clips that were dessert, dessert, dessert. They were fast. It's 30 seconds. And I'm like, man, I want more of that. And so that's something I talk about a lot with content creators and entrepreneurs, where trying to find the right piece of content. Now, that's not right always, but for a lot of times, something that you want to grab, something you want to really grab somebody's attention, or act as a trailer for something else. It's like, give them that dessert first.
No, well said. Give them the dessert first.
All right. Talk to me about the creative process between the, like, your experience as a creator with entrepreneurs, and like how to get the vision between, what somebody has in their head and then to get to you to, like, a lot of times trying to like tell them what's possible, what's realistic. because people, they have
Hmm.
these ideas like, I want to start a YouTube channel and I want it to be, Steven Spielberg level video. And it's like, what's the process of getting, what you could produce, what they want, and matching it up with reality?
Sure. So I think it all starts with the questions that you ask them. So, things like where are we going to film it? How often do you want to film it? Always getting an example edit or like a picture of a set that you like could certainly help. And then kind of determining, how much they really want to sink into it with the gear, if they're filming it from home and I'm just editing, or if I'm going over there to film. But I think just the longer I can get to know them and hear their ask questions for their vision, and before we start getting into the more granular stuff like the schedule and the budget and pricing, it always kind of helps for just hearing what they really want and their motivation behind why. Because I think a lot of people, they like the idea of success and that they might have a community or an audience that they can create, but they don't really realize how much work it really goes in behind the scenes and the editing and the thoughts and the questions and the preparation. They just think it's, hit record and then it's done. Like there's just like one magic button on our keyboard where you just hit it and it's like edit. But no, it like takes a lot of time. So for me, like another new question I've been asking people too lately is, what does success look like for you when we're done either filming together for the day or at the end of the event? And then you can get really specific. Like somebody told me, I want at least 5 really good talking head testimonials of people that were ecstatic coming here. And so then we do it. And then I say, okay, does it matter if they're already in the coaching program or do we want new people? Do we want boys or girls? Do you want, older people or younger people? Because like for me, like especially when I'm shooting, I try to get the diversity of the group. Just to get all different types of people to so it can appeal to that one person watching, and maybe if they're a little bit older or a little bit younger. But I think it all starts with just keep asking questions and get to the whys, and then you can start talking about the hows.
Yeah.
I'd be curious
One
to
of the
hear your
questions
thoughts though too.
one of the questions I ask right at the get, kind of what you said, like what's success look like, and I always ask like, where is this going to go, and what are you trying to get out of it? And I think what a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people do is they say like, they're like, I want to do YouTube. Can you come film a YouTube episode with me? And I have this conversation like, well, do you have a YouTube presence right now? Because you hiring me to do one YouTube video is not going to do anything for anybody. 7 people will watch it maybe, and it doesn't convert it to anything. And so I think it really, the thing I try to find out is I try to implement myself into what is their current, ecosphere, what is their current strategy, and how do I fit into that? Now, I'm happy to do content strategy with people, but I think a lot of people, they don't have a strategy, or they want one-off stuff, and one-off stuff is great, but we have to really use it effectively. So, for example, you know, somebody will call me up and they'll say like, well, I want to come over for the day and we'll do like 50 reels. And I'm like, you know, that's fine. Um, that's fine. But, how does it fit in? If you do 50 reels and then you post one a day for 50 days and then you don't have anything after that, that's not great. Also, if you do, 50 reels and you post 3 a day and you don't have anything after that, what's the point? So I think really the core of what I try to get at is what is their overall strategy? Is this just organic, or are they really are they trying to do paid? And right now, I think they need a little bit of both to be effective. I think organic content for entrepreneurs is really not that effective. It's also incredibly necessary. So trying to find out like where they are in the process of their content machine, their content strategy, what they're trying to get out of it. Kind of like you said, like what does success look like? Not just for the production, but like if I give you 50 clips and then you don't know how to post them or where you should post them, or or how it leads to their product or whatever the case, then it's uh, nobody wants to waste anybody's time. So
Hmm.
I'm always like, what is, kind of like you said, what is success? But also like, what is your larger success? Like, what are you trying to accomplish, and how can we develop a strategy that we work together on that feeds into that success, rather than just what I think the core of why I ask this is most entrepreneurs, they look at cameras, they know content's important, they know being on social is important, they don't actually know how it converts, how to make it, like you said, and what the production process is like. So they like make a YouTube video, and I'm like, yeah, YouTube's important, but man, YouTube is a big mountain. This is not a weekend's worth of work. This is every day worth of work. So trying to get get an understanding of what people are trying to really accomplish, and how to build something around that. When they find out that YouTube is a full-time job, then they're like, oh, I don't really want to actually do that, which is good. We'll do something that's sustainable. I think that's the big thing for me is what's sustainable, because
Hmm.
social does not work on Wednesdays and Tuesdays. Whatever you do, you have to do it forever.
I'd agree too with what you said on you need a little bit of the combo of organic and paid because I know now that TikTok and Reels have been out for a while, their algorithm isn't as friendly as it was like even back towards like COVID and like right after COVID, where the discovery feature and like seeing the new stuff would appear a lot easier. So like if you do have a little bit of budget and you can do paid, I think like that's the perfect 1-2 combo.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move on to another topic. AI.
Yeah.
AI is still hot. I'm using it every day. I'm using video.ai. I'm using Opus Clips, although I'm having a little bit of trouble with Opus Clips. So I hope they have some updates coming out over the next few weeks. And now, let's see, using Autopod. Autopod a lot. Autopod's great. And I heard about yesterday, I don't know if you've seen this, for photography, a guy reached out to me. He said, I'm using aftershoot.ai. It does AI culling. It does all the straightening in your Lightroom, and it does cropping and edits to style. If you like give it your style, it knows how to edit to your style automatically.
Have not heard of that one, but it sounds great. What was it called again?
Aftershoot.ai. I believe it's a Lightroom plugin.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
I
Um,
love that.
but what other AI are you using? Any other AI in the in the moment?
I've just been reading more about them, but I haven't. I mean, Autopod's still number one for me. That's shaved like a ton of time. I need to like the Opus Clips. I know you've mentioned it, so like I've been more and more tempted to try that. But right now, I've just been just sticking with Autopod. But that's something actually on my to-do list because every day I'm kind of just Googling a little bit like AI for videos and need to now like actually like, create time to test them more.
Yeah, you got to tinker.
Yeah.
So one of the interesting things about podcasting right now is Riverside now has AI generated clips in it. So after this recording is done, that we're recording this on Riverside, this will spit me out 5 or 6 social media clips. I can give them to you. So I think that type of edit is coming very fast, and that is exciting for all people who create original content, especially podcasting. Like the ability to disseminate, or excuse me, like cut up long form content and disseminate into short form content easily is coming fast. And so what it does, it just reinforces what I've been saying for a while now, which is those who have big personalities that can, attract an audience, keep their attention, and provide them value. That right there, the personalities are going to go to the top. The production is going to be very easy.
Yeah, no, I went out to eat with a couple guys last night who are all in production, and everyone's saying what's coming next after Reels because the short form talking head, putting in the animated text like the Hermosi style, because I feel like he's the one that kind of was the first to do it, and everyone tagged along. They're like, this trend is gonna start to fade, and there's gonna be something else, but what is it? None of us knew, but we were all talking about it because it's so much easier now to add the subtitles, and I do think a lot of them are starting to look alike.
I think one of the trends that's coming, I believe as deeply as coming, is the one that you helped me out with, the hype reels. Those are not easy to
Mm.
make. They're interesting, and those will
Hmm.
come at the forefront of basically all podcasts. And I think people who can tell a story in a short amount of time with dramatic music, good sound design, and then do the research to go into these interesting people and go to the internet and scour the internet for their interesting moments throughout their history and news clips. And you did a great job on that piece. But the people who can put those together into trailers, I think that will be one piece of a trend. I don't think that'll be like the only trend. The Hormozy style videos went bananas, and you're right, they're becoming very democratized now. Everybody has them. But I don't know that one thing will replace them. I think many little mini trends will replace them.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be over time. Yeah, no, the trailer thing was fun because it really is like telling the story and picking the best parts of what's said, and then like you said with the sound design, good lighting, sound effects, the music, like you can really like get into that mood that you want the person to feel, whether it's like the upbeat like rock with the snare drum and it's like something happy that they're saying, or if it's like a struggling moment and you cue the sad music. Um, it felt like making like a little movie trailer, but of a conversation almost.
That's exactly right. So I think everybody who does a podcast is going to start doing those very quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's the hook. I feel like it'd be great to see the stats on the ones that don't have those so far that you upload to YouTube and see where the drop off is versus having the little trailer before and then the full episode. Like hopefully it's higher with the trailer and then maybe it'll slowly drop off like it normally does. But to me, like if I watch a good trailer, like especially the ones that we talked about, like Diary of a CEO or even some of like Ryan Pineda's that I've seen, I'm like, oh, this is good. I gotta watch it. And it's just because they picked like really good sound bites and the editor editing it did like phenomenal job of picking which ones to choose. And then with all
Yeah,
the effects,
it also favors podcasts who get guests that have a bigger sort of history on the internet, so you can get those clips. So if you go on the internet and you have a podcast with like you and me, two nobodies, it's hard to do a trailer for me because there's just not that much on the internet. I haven't written a book. I'm not in the New York Times. There's no pictures of me on CNN. So it does lend itself to sort of favor the podcast guests who have big followings. Bethke was a great example because he's just 35 million views on a single YouTube video, or Stephen Bartlett that does Diary of a CEO. Great sizzle reels because why? Because all his guests are well-known, well-documented, authors, entrepreneurs, CEOs, stuff like that. Okay, moving on.
I had some questions. I had some questions too. Whenever it's my turn. Well, all right. So we were talking about this last time, but you were saying, why don't you ask this on the podcast? And I think it'd be great for whoever's listening to hear this. But you have such charisma. You're so magnetic. When I first met you, I was like, I like this guy. I felt like we hit it off right away. And I'm wondering, how do you stay so happy? And like what makes you happy? Because I think that's like one thing, especially as like a solo creator. Like I was talking to another buddy who he doesn't have a team. It's just him. After the event, he was like, hey, like, do you get sad after like these conferences? And I was like, a little bit, because like you go back home, you're editing by yourself. There's nobody here. And, you're not going into an office. And it's just like this endorphin rush where you see like some of your heroes or people you've been idolizing or following for a while. They give like a great talk. You feel super motivated. And then 3 days later, you're like, what to do? And whenever I talk to you, you seem so happy all the time, so grateful. Like I know you said the line, I'm the luckiest man alive.
I'm the luckiest guy on earth.
And I'm curious, like, what is the secret? Like, what is this a practice? Did you learn it? Have you always been this way?
Yeah. Okay. First off, I'm not always happy all the time. I had actually two really bad days in a row last 2 days. So I think everybody goes through peaks and valleys. But that being said, yes, it is a practice. It is 100% a practice. It is available to everybody. And some of it is like, my fiance is the most optimistic person on the earth. So it's like who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people who are negative, I have a saying I've been saying for 10 years, like attitude is contagious. Attitude is contagious. So it's like, dude, make sure you have one worth catching, because everybody who's around you is going to catch your attitude. You say like, oh, Alex, you're so optimistic or so happy. It's like, right. Because I want you to be optimistic. I want to give that to you. Well, the same thing is true as well. Like if I was negative, I'd give you that negativity. Well, the people that are around you that you choose to keep around, their attitude is contagious too. So if you have around people that are negative, you're gonna be negative. One of the best things you can do is probably marry somebody who's very happy, very optimistic. I mean, because you're gonna be around them the most. So the person that you're around the most has to be in a very optimistic mood. The future belongs to the optimist. But secondly, like there's some pragmatic things, like dude, the gym. Health is wealth. If you're not in the gym, like there's a it's not just like a chore. It's not just like look at muscles. It's not just weight loss. It's like there's a physiological process of you getting out and like using your body in a physical capacity. And it is physiological. So it affects your mental and emotional health. That's it. And I think we had talked about a couple other things that are, who you surround yourself at the gym. And we've talked about a couple other things that are important that are maybe a little more abstract. Travel. Travel is so important. If you've only ever been to America, then you've only ever been to as good as it gets. So you don't know how good you have it. Like, go to Sierra Leone, Africa. Go somewhere terrible. I mean, you don't have to go that far. Go to Mexico. Go to the bad part of town. You want to be grateful? Well, you live in Las Vegas. How often do you hang out by Boulder Highway?
I drive by it when I go to the car wash.
Yeah, go hang out
And
there
then,
for a day or two. Just walk up and down the street for a while and then tell me how bad you have it.
hmm
That's a tough part of town. Not all of it, obviously, but like, go to the bad parts of your town and then be like, you know what? It's not so bad. I live in 600 square foot, but I could have no house at all. So some of it is like relative experience. Some of it is a lot of people stress about money. Money doesn't make you actually that happier because you'll never have enough. And especially if you hang out with people. I hang out with Brandon Turner. He's got $1 billion of real estate. I I'm never gonna have $1 billion of real estate. So like compared to him and all the other people on Maui, like I'm poor, right? I'm poor, but I'm still happy because not because of how much I have or don't have, but because of control. So I think a lot of people's money problems are a lack of control. They don't actually know how much they have. They don't know how much they spend. They spend it frivolously. They don't know what they want, so they spend it on consumerism. Consumerism is the worst addiction of all. Consumerism will make you unhappy. So I stay away from sort of vapid, empty things like that. I try to do things that are very fulfilling, gym, books, and a lot of it, and then also like nature. Like, it's hard in Las Vegas in July, but you have Red Rock, you have Mount Charleston. You can go hiking. Getting out in nature it again, it's biology. Your body like is designed for sunshine and breezes and good weather and nature and being around like the woods. So I think I think that combination of those things would make anybody happy, and none of them are even yeah, none of them are unattainable. All of them are attainable today, right? Sean could go to the gym today. You could hang around optimistic people today. You could start cutting out negative people out of your life today. You could go through your bank statements and your bank accounts and do like an audit and find out where you're misspending and where you're like and start like every time you get money, just save a little bit. Like start taking control, and you could go for a hike. You could do all those things today, and I bet you'd be in a good ass mood. So a lot of it is so when you say like it's a process, like dude, it's not biology. I've been depressed. I've had negative parts of my life, deeply negative parts. I used to be very angsty. And so it is totally a process. It is not something that is attainable for everybody.
I love that. That almost leads into my next question I had.
I have
So I
one
was
more.
going to
I have
ask
one
it.
more thing about
Yeah,
that. I have one more thing
sure.
about that actually. Is every
Yeah.
time at dinner, me and Miss Kate we say grace. And so for me, because I'm a little bit more secular than her, I just express what are the three things I'm grateful for, and you say it out loud, and that matters. Like
Yeah.
tell people what you're grateful for, and it does something when you say it out loud to somebody else. It puts like stakes, puts skin in the game,
Yeah.
um, and that matters because then it tells you tell people like I'm grateful for this. And then they're optimistic. They're like, wow, I should be more grateful too. And so you spread that around and then it compounds.
I love that. Yeah. After you told me that last week, I really made it a point every day my girlfriend gets home, I ask her, so what was the best part of your day? And then what are you grateful for? And like, any small wins that you had, like what was something that unexpected happened. And then we also say these like corny little catchphrases that like my mom would say to me growing up, like smile at somebody new today, or like make a new friend, or sit next to somebody else at lunch. And it's different for everyone, but like even just like, hey, go tell somebody a joke today, and like sometimes she does, and it's just like an extra little challenge. Like so for me, like I'll go to the gym and I'll go talk to the person checking people in a little bit longer, or just wave and smile at other people that I see at the rock climbing gym that maybe I might normally have my head down, headphones in, trying to get in the zone, and now I'm just like, oh hey, and I feel like little gestures like that, can really make a big difference too.
Attitude is contagious, bro.
Yeah.
It really is. Um, yeah, I love that. Me and Miss Kate ask each other all the time. We say, what could go right? It's a super helpful exercise. What could go
That's
right?
good.
Because then you start daydreaming. You're like, wait, well, this could go right, and that could go right, and this could go right. And it's just like you start getting optimistic about the future rather than like, the common question is like, what's going to go wrong? What could go wrong? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, what could go right?
I love that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what are your three things that someone listening to today could start today, and then if they implement 10, 15, or even 20 years from now, they'd be like, Alex, I listened to that pod with you and Sean. I appreciate that, because I feel like some of them, could have been included that you just said, but I'm
Yeah.
curious what.
The advice that changed my life forever and still does was this: your life will be uh, I forget the term he used, but I don't even remember who told me, but life will be solved when you do these three things. You need three hobbies: one that makes you
Hmm.
money, one hobby that keeps you in shape, and one hobby that
Hmm.
keeps you creative. You do those three
Mm.
things, life is done. Life is solved. You go to the gym, you find something. You don't have to be a mogul, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. Just like find a way to stack away 20% and invest it in the market or buy real estate or whatever it is. Like find a way to make a little bit of money. Don't make it your whole life. Just make a little bit of money on your terms. Go to get your fitness on. You have to have some fitness, but you have to have a physiological health process, and you have to create, whether it's writing, photography, videography. For the first 5 or 6 years of my camera, I didn't take a dime. It was a hobby of fulfillment. It was not a business by any means. I didn't even really want it to be a business. I just got too good. But if you do those three things, right, life is solved.
I love that. I wrote those down.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I've been saying that for 10 years. And the more I look at my life, I'm like, it's not always perfect, but that is what I do. And I think about them as hobbies. I never think about like I never think about them as like careers or identities. I never want to be like I never wanted my real estate investor to be my identity. Even when I was good at it and I was doing a lot, I rejected it. I never want gym rat to be like my identity. I want to be well-rounded. I want to have three main hobbies that sort of keep me fulfilled and well-rounded.
I love that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people get tied up in the identity, and then once they switch jobs or something happens, you can kind of see how it's like self-destructive almost.
Yeah, so I was in the military, and this is very popular, very common problem in the army. Somebody will do 20 years, and especially if they're like in special forces and they're like, I'm a Green Beret, that's what I am. And then, year 21 comes along and they get out, and it's like, when you're out of the army, you're all the way out. There is no like, you don't go back to the office to hang out, you're out. And so, and the guys go on without you. And so a lot of guys, they lose both their job, their income, their purpose, right? And their identity. They lose a lot all at once. And a lot of men struggle, women too, I'm sure, but like, I was from the special forces world where there's no women. So I see a lot of people struggle with, especially an identity like a Green Beret, where it's not just like, oh, I'm in the army, like a job. It's like, dude, I am a Green Beret. And now you are just another civilian who with, no rank, no hierarchy, no purpose. Like it's got to be tough. Yeah. So I'm sure the same thing happens with um, entrepreneurs who, they build a business for 10 years and then like, one day somebody was the CEO of Blockbuster for 15 years and then one day he was not.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you do it again? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, one day you're the president of the United States and then one day you are not. And you are just, Mr. Whatever.
Yeah. Then you write a book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people struggle with it, right? Identity is definitely a
Mhm.
hard thing. You want to, you know, putting your identity into what you do it's definitely a double-edged sword because that's how the people who probably get best at things, right? By really sinking themselves into it. But then also you have to be careful that you have a healthy way of getting out of it because you don't want you don't want to rise, you don't want your self-worth to rise and fall with, some economic system or something that you're like, well, what if you're a world-class archer and then you lose a hand? You're a musician and you lose a finger and you're like, dude, I'm sunk. Now who am I? Am I nothing? Am I nobody now? So
Mhm.
it's definitely a double-edged sword.
Totally. I got
Okay,
an
well, oh, you got, yeah,
unless you, oh
hit
yeah,
me.
no, I got,
No,
well,
hit
so
me.
yeah, I was out to eat with, or coffee with like four other content creators and we were all talking about gear. And I noticed each person had a different method for buying their gear. And so I wanted to run it
Okay.
by you. So if you're buying gear, do you pay for it in full? Do you finance it or do you buy it used? Or do you just buy the one that you can actually afford if you're not, if you have like, you want the FX3 or something, but that's out of budget, and you can't pay for that in full, do you just settle for the 30 or do you save up? Like what's your methodology when it comes to, getting the gear if I guess you might be the exception where you're just going to buy the best of the best right now because you're working with Brandon and have the pod and everything. But for
Everybody has budgets and everybody has limited resources. Nobody's
Hmm.
has I certainly don't have an unlimited budget, and everybody makes concessions, in my opinion,
Hmm.
about what they can get. I mean, I would much rather have better lenses and more cameras, but I have what I have.
Mm.
So
I
in
thought
my
you were gonna say
experience,
Sony's.
no, I never buy Sony's. No, but what I found is that I don't buy used gear, and that's probably probably because I'm a prima donna, not for any pragmatic reasons. I mean, used gear is mostly probably fine. I've just not done it. Um, Lenses, I have bought a bunch of Sigma lenses rather than the equivalent Canons, and the more that I do that, the more that I have bought the Canons, the more I realize the Canons are better. They cost more, but they're better. And so
Hmm.
I will try to usually buy what. First off, I buy what I need, not what I think I want. Generally, hey, I need a portrait lens. Well, go buy an 85 millimeter. Hey, I need a wide angle. Go ahead, buy the 15 to 35. Like I try not to just buy stuff because I'm trying to get a new look. I generally don't do that. I try to buy like, hey, look, I need to do this shot or this shoot or this thing, and I want to get it. Now there's some exceptions to that rule. I really want to get an FPV drone. I don't have any need for it. I will find needs for it, but I really want to buy an FPV drone. I really want to buy the Insta360. I don't have any need for it, but I want to like run down the beach and have that long. Have you seen that with the long pole where it's like that third
Hmm.
person shot? I really want to do that shot running down the beach. But and even though the device is only like $600, it's like I don't have a need for it, so I haven't bought it. Now the other side of that is when I do buy, I try to pay. I try to pay with a credit card so I get the points and then pay it off with cash immediately. If I cannot do that, then I generally the only time I will make an exception to that rule and finance something is if like I have got to get a piece of equipment for a shoot that will pay for itself, and then I will finance it, and then within the month or whatever, I'll pay it off. But for the most part, gear acquisition syndrome is a problem, and people will buy stuff that they don't need. I think there's tremendous value. I think the really great photographers can work within a lot of a lot of um, parameters. I think there's a tendency for all of us to be like, well, my 50 millimeter is great, but what would be really great is an 85 millimeter 1.2, a $3,000 lens. And it's like, will it be better? Yes. But is the 50 millimeter 1.8 probably good enough? Yes. Is it worth going to the debt $3,000 for? Probably not. So I think there is the truly skilled creators can do it within constraints. I think constraints actually make for creativity rather than just being like, I'll buy whatever. And especially if you're financing it. I think one of the problems that I see, excuse me, I think one of the things that I don't have that a lot of creators have problems is I made all my money first and then I got into content. And so for me, it's certainly not rich. So I can't just get whatever I want to get, but I know how to manage money. Whereas I worry that there are content creators out there that are like, hey, every time I make money, I buy new equipment because that's like an investment into my business, but then it doesn't end up actually making them more money. They just always are on this equipment churn. So if that's the case, then I always say, make do with what you have and save the cash.
Hmm. Great advice. I love the constraints bring out creativity. The first 2 years I shot, I only had one lens and the same camera, and just made it work. It's like
What kind of
you need a
lens?
little bit wider. It was a 50 millimeter prime Zeiss, so it was a good
Perfect.
lens. It was a good lens.
Perfect.
Yeah.
50 millimeters, it's good, but it's like, dude, everybody should shoot with prime for like, just go a year and a half with just one prime lens and like learn how to actually be a photographer. So
Yeah.
healthy.
I just remember
Yeah.
there'd be times where I'm like, oh, like they can't get any closer and it's not a wide and I can't adjust it. So then I would just have to scoot back, and
Yeah.
then I
Moving
could
is
snap
like,
it.
yeah, or doing weird stuff. Like you have to figure out how to, do weird shots. Where maybe you end up you shoot more details because it's just that you
Hmm.
get that tight lens. You end up shooting more details, or yeah, you got to move farther away. So I think it makes people a really great photographer. I think, I've definitely fallen into the trap where I travel everywhere with two lenses and I'm swapping them out all the time, and it's a big pain in the ass. And I get neat shots, but like, who wins? Does it make me a better photographer, or does it just make me more high maintenance?
It depends the circumstance where you're shooting, but yeah, I feel the same way. I went out to Mount Charleston actually a few days ago to go rock climbing and brought the camera, and I was like, I'm only bringing one lens. It's like a 28-75. And there's a couple instances where I was like, oh, I wish I would have brought my wider one so you could really show how big the wall was. But I was like, all right, I'm just gonna make do with what I have. There's chalk and we're out in nature. I didn't want to be switching lenses, but got some cool shots.
Yeah, so one of the things I will say, if you only bring one lens with you when you go to shooting, you are 100% welcome to complain. I complain every time I go somewhere. I bring one lens. In fact, I made the mistake last week or whatever when I was in Vegas. I took my Canon and I took a 85 millimeter to walk the boulevard. That's hard. There's nothing to shoot because everything's so close and big, and so you really want to have that wide angle, and I just didn't have it. And so I got some shots. They weren't great, but it was still a fun challenge. But I complained the whole way. So if I had my 24 millimeter, then I would complain that I couldn't get the far away shots. So whatever you do, you are welcome to complain. That's definitely part of it.
I love that.
All right. I'd like to, unless you have any more questions, I'd like to get wrapping up. What
Sure.
events? What do you shoot? What are you shooting later or like coming up soon? Do you have any events coming up?
I don't know too much about the event because I have a call with the guy later today. But have you heard of Brendan Bouchard? He's
No.
kind of like an OG YouTuber. He's in the thought leadership, kind of like business coach space. And working with him in LA later next week. So
Nice.
that'll be fun. Kind of cool how I got that one. A buddy just saw him posting like need a videographer for an event, and
Boom.
then got in his DMs right away.
Dude,
And
we
then I
should make a
sent,
marketplace. That's what I want to do with this platform is I want to make a marketplace to connect entrepreneurs and videographers, content creators together. Super important.
yeah, yeah, no, it was great. Sent him a sizzle reel. He said, "This looks good. Do you have anything else I can look at?" Sent him another sizzle reel, and then I just went all in. I sent him my link with the gear list, my case studies, and testimonials. And like we were jiving back and forth a little bit in the emails, and he's like, "This is fun. Like, thanks for sending these." And I was like, "Oh man, like he's actually looking at all this."
Good.
And then, yeah, and I'm excited because I'm not like a diehard fan of like following all his content, but I remember seeing some of his content back in like 2013 and 14, and I was like, "This guy seems really sharp. He's posting like content. It was educational. He was doing like whiteboard sessions, and yeah, I guess he has an event in LA next week, so I got that. And then Pineda's also having like a workshop at his space for Ricky Carruth, so we'll be filming that as well.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah. What about
Okay,
you?
I have a small event for our Better Life um, tribe
Tribe.
in San Diego this weekend. That'll be just a very private thing, but it's a marriage retreat, so it's for couples. And then in December, I will be in Las Vegas for a 300 to 500 person event that we're hosting, and I'm hoping to get you there, so you can do all the things that I don't want to do.
I love that. I'm already here, so you don't have to pay for my travel.
Yeah. That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell
Um,
yeah.
all right. How can people find you? What's the best way to reach out?
On Instagram at Sean SHAWN McGuire MAGUIRE, just like the movie Jerry Maguire, Maguire for Hire. How about
Square
you? How
Fire.
can they find you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm at Alex Scott Felice.
Love it.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I got some new stuff. I got some new stuff in the works, but we're going to be doing a little more of this podcast. We're going to be disseminating this podcast. I do want to talk to more people, entrepreneurs and creators who are looking to find, like you said, partners, not just work, but partners, somebody they can work with long term or at least regularly, sort of like you work with Pineda.
Hmm.
Um, I think that movement is coming. I think the Brandon Burchards like need a full-time videographer, and I even talked to, we met Brad Lee and he had a young videographer with him, and I was like, the kid was nice, and he was there working, but I just thought to myself, I was like, Brad has this big infrastructure. He should have somebody way more, I'm sorry to say, mature. He had a young kid who's getting started. I don't have anything against this kid. I want this kid to do well, but I also look at him like Brad has the budget. Like there should be somebody of a there should be a much deeper partnership going on, in my opinion. And I don't know the relationship, but I just see those kind of things where I'm like, there is so much opportunity for creators who have big skill sets to come in and say, look, let's just be their creative director. Let's be a partnership. Let's just we'll do content across the board, short form, long form, podcasting. We'll really make it all look great and look like your style. Um, so yeah, I'm
Yeah, no,
trying
I
to I'm
love
trying to do
that.
some of that, but yeah. But yeah, Instagram, Alex Scott Fleece. I'm about to cross 3,000 followers. Got to get that number
Hey,
up.
let's go. Hey, every
And
follower counts.
yeah, and but we'll do this again next week. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, my dude. Let's get somebody.
Cool.
Let's get Spencer in here next week.
Yeah, I'll send him a DM. Did you still want to talk about anything else off recording, or?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
cool.
See ya.
All right, sweet. See ya. Bye.